The noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, welcome in 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Let's get it, folks. Happy Thursday, everybody.
Let's get it.
Let's do it.
The football schedules are being released.
The schedules are here. The schedules are here.
Yeah. The new schedules are here. You got a couple of jerks on air. Man, I miss those kinds of movies. Steve Martin in the 80s and 90s. Man, he was so good. I think The Jerk is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Best Steve Martin. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Worst Steve Martin is Better by the Dozen, or what is it, Cheaper by the Dozen?
I don't think I ever even watched that one.
Oh, really?
Wait, which one?
Cheaper by the Dozen. It should be Cheap Laughs, Cheaper by the Dozen. I mean, it's
Yeah.
But what's her name? Bonnie Blair.
Yeah.
She's actually pretty funny.
Underrated, very, very underrated Steve Martin movie, My Blue Heaven.
It's good, man. Yeah, it's good. But that's one of the lesser watched Steve Martins.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that 2 times in my life. I think I've seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles at least 50 times in my life. From front to finish.
Yeah. That's one, if it's on TV, you're watching it.
You're watching it.
Even if you have to go through commercials, you're watching it.
At least, I would say 2 times a year since it was released.
Yeah.
And it was released, what, in
88?
I think 88.
Yeah, somewhere around there. How about Dirty Rotten Scoundrels?
It's really good, actually. Oklahoma, Oklahoma, Oklahoma. Rupert, leave the cork on the fork.
I have to go to the bathroom. Thank you.
Can I be excused?
Oh, man. Great movies. There's some guys out there that we talk about their movies and we look at their IMDb and you're like, okay, he's been in a lot of stuff, but nothing great. Steve Martin's been in a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, he has. He's really good, man. So what are we doing here? The 60 and 60-60 situation that we got going on. Have we announced it? Do we know the exact direction? We've had
Lloyd.
We've had 8 meetings.
Scotty.
Don't drag me into this.
Well, you've been in some. We know we've talked about this a little bit.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
How many meetings have we had now? Is it 8 or 10?
You direct this ship.
I think you're underselling how many meetings we've had.
You direct that ship over troubled waters.
We do meetings over meetings sometimes.
The troubled shipping
when does
waters.
that start, by the way? 16. Sorry.
Not today, Scott. You want to make another joke that you brought out today that I always hear anyways?
Wait, was there a misunderstanding?
Oh.
Any type of home type joke you want to make?
Come on, that was funny.
Yes, but I get it anyways. You just beat somebody to the punch.
Yeah, I know. We had our weekly meeting this morning. And Lloyd's.
Was there a miscalculation?
No, there's just
By the way, thank you for putting it in a way that it could be understood.
Yeah.
Because I kind of said something similar.
A poor attempt at humor on my part that may have fallen flat. But
no such thing as poor Scotty humor.
I love when we live some of this stuff, by the way, on air.
Yeah, did you miss your mark? What happened?
No, it healed, but it's like I always hear that joke.
There's a scab, and it starts to heal up a little bit, and then you just rip it off, and it bleeds everywhere.
Yep.
It bled everywhere today.
I bled everywhere.
It bled. Just a little bit.
Was it a water bottle mention, or was that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. That one is my favorite. That's one of my. It's a very highly underrated reference from behind the scenes.
Oh,
so
you
should
guys.
we discuss what we're gonna do then?
Oh, she didn't catch that.
Well,
come on, girl.
I don't know. It needs to be, or do we wait when we start announcing? Then we do it then. I feel like we need to let people know.
Regardless, I still have to sit down with Kalani and Kyle.
Yep.
Still has to happen. Yep.
I've got my meeting set up with Bronco.
So we got to sit. Yeah, like the day that.
It's not important.
Not important.
that it's cut to close.
Very close.
Okay, so when we sit down with Kyle and Bronco and Kalani, and we're like, so, Kalani, tell me about this guy that played at SMU for 3 years.
That's pretty much what we're doing. So, are we just going to? Should we just announce this then?
Let's announce what we're going to do.
Okay.
It's been agreed upon. This is what we're doing. We are changing up to 60 and 60.
So the 60 and 60 will not be a preseason rank. We're shifting our ranking attention to after the season. So
which is probably, by the way, the most important.
The top 25 re-rank is big.
Or maybe
it is an important deal.
And maybe we'll extend that to 30. I don't know. But we will do a re-rank, or well, not a rank. It will be the official ranking will be after the season. Before the season, though.
By the way, put some weight on the actual play.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Instead of projecting how a guy will perform, we will then recap how they did perform and rank them off of that. But we still want a preseason, kind of feel to it. So, in the spirit of something that we all enjoy doing, we will have a 60 and 60 watch list.
Yeah, man, this is your gold.
It's now time for Watching the Watch List with Hans Olsen and Scott Gerard.
So what this was a Scotty ordered. We all sat down. We're like, we got to figure out this thing with 60 and 60. And Scotty's like, let's do a watch list.
Literally Scotty's idea to do a watch list.
Yeah, it was.
Mr. Anti-Watch List.
You fought against the watch list for years, bud.
Yes, you have.
This was not my idea.
Every time I play this, it was like you give me the death stare.
I still am,
and
by the way.
You give me some. You're number one, which I appreciate you not doing this time.
that number one.
You're number one.
Ring finger.
Ring finger.
You're the
number
best.
one.
I'm going to marry you, number one. How does that sound? So Scotty did come up with the watch list 60 and 60 edition. So what we're going to do now is we're taking it out of the voters' hands, even though the 60 ranked players last year nearly mirrored the top 20. The top 25. Hey, just so everybody knows, like every once in a while, something so terrible happens that it blows up a great
really
idea.
Does. Look,
And
Marcus Williams coming in at 42, or whoever ranked it, was it Marcus Williams?
Yeah,
Somebody ranked him 42. That really took the evolution of the 60 and 60 to another level.
Scotty peeling a scab and letting it bleed all over the place.
Are we ready to announce who did that?
No.
No, we're not doing that to him. No. Stop. He may even have admitted it himself, but we're not going to do that.
Did he admit it publicly?
I don't know. He could
No,
have.
he
might
didn't.
have.
No,
I don't
he-
think
There's
he did,
no way.
but
No, he didn't.
You wouldn't want that kind of heat.
That was buried and hidden for years because he ended up checking in at like number 2 on the re-rank.
Yeah.
He was very high up on the re-rank.
Yes. So we will have a essentially watch list. So we will spend a part of the day focusing on one individual player. In the state of Utah, you'll still hear the coach's audio. You'll still hear the thoughts of the coaches on these individual players. They will be presented, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of stepping in like no particular order. I don't know.
No particular. Okay.
Are they?
You are on fire today. Can we put them in a way like in an order of importance? Could we do?
No, I'm just like.
Is that what you're trying to say?
I
Can
just
we
don't
put
know.
them in an order of importance?
One thing we have not talked about is how we present them. Like we'll
Right,
present a
because,
player
By
every
the
day,
way,
but I don't know.
I absolutely love our coworkers. I love every one of them. I love them.
And you hope they all have a blessed day.
Yes.
Well, the day of the kickoff, we don't want to be talking about a long snapper.
No, that was not a great. That was
Yeah,
not.
it
like
could be.
if we're going
It could
in,
be.
Yeah, but if we're going in random order and we got a long snapper that we're going to be talking about, what are we talking about? Long snapping? Long snapping?
We just see the guy snap the ball.
What about situational long snapping? When you have to snap it to an up back, coach, like when your plan is to snap it 15 yards, but you snap it 5. What about that, coach?
What's it?
Situational
How do you
snapping.
handle that?
What about punting? I mean, how in punting? How is there? We just see the guy kick the ball.
we just see the guy
What
kick the ball.
details go into punting in situational football?
You know what I love? Bless Ajay Hart. At least you try and inflection. Like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
Hey, what about punting? It's like Jiminy Glick Hey, what do you think about punting?
Hey. Wow. I was just talking to Ajay today.
Trying to energize the question, man.
Well, look, he's
Got to church up punting somehow.
Yeah, if you're going to ask that question, you gotta at least bring some energy to it.
What about punting? I mean, how in punting? How is there? We just see the guy kick the ball. What details go into punting in situational football?
Situational football.
Talking about punting.
Oh, and by the way, if we are talking about a long snapper on kickoff day, I'm going to say, what are we talking about? Long snapping?
No, I feel pretty confident there will not be a long snapper. Although, I don't know. I don't know about your I don't know about how BYU and Utah's handling it. I know we will present some players, but I was told that by Utah State that they said, give us a number, and we will give you the players.
Okay.
So we have no say over the players that will be presented by Utah State. Utah State will give us, in particular, one coach will give us the players that we'll be focused on.
So I'm presenting players, but I'm sure they'll be changed.
Oh,
Yeah.
some will be taken off and some added, I would imagine.
Yeah. But this one, solely by the coaching staff.
Man, this offseason cycle has been pretty crazy. Transfers, civil lawsuits. It's already just been a mixed bag, and we still got to get through June, July, and August.
I know. We're not even to Father's Day yet,
Yeah.
and it's been nuts.
Yep.
But what we do know, you okay if we start here? We know when some games are going to start.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Hans and Scotty G.
Let's go.
The lineup is set, and it's time to kick off the show with the biggest topic of the day. This is the starting lineup on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You mean like our ranking? All right. Sorry. All right. It is your starting lineup brought to you by Mountainland Supply, where the pros go for plumbing, landscaping, agricultural irrigation, HVAC parts, tools, safety equipment, and all that comes along with it. Basically, if water runs through it, Mountainland's going to get you squared away. Go to mountainland.com to find a location near you.
Well, we got some interesting kickoff times, Scotty. Very interesting kickoff times. And I think I want to start with this. University of Utah. How about this one? Lloyd and I were just going over this. Friday, November 28th, Black Friday.
Yes.
A 10 a.m. kickoff on ABC with Kansas.
With Kansas.
A 10 a.m. kickoff on Black Friday.
You'll just be getting home from Walmart with all your deals that you just scored.
We did do the math on that, right? That is Black Friday, right?
That is Black Friday. Yep. Friday after Thanksgiving.
I absolutely love that kickoff time. Well, I mean, I would love it. If I'm a Utah fan, that's right up my alley.
Oh, yeah. No, 10 a.m.
Yes.
Friday.
because
Tryptophan's kind of worn off a little bit. You're
Yeah.
ready to go.
all the families out, they out milling around. Some are looking for inexpensive gifts, and some are trying to get family back to wherever they came from, or some are taking care of family, and you're just kind of rolling out of bed, and you're like, geez, I could use some football. And you're going to have Utah and Kansas on a 10 a.m. kick. That's sweet.
The only thing I don't like about this is that it's Kansas. It should be Utah BYU 10 a.m. on that Friday.
Everybody's eyes on ABC.
Yes. Yeah.
A 10 a.m. kick. Everybody will be watching that game. And the only thing Lloyd doesn't like is the morning after Thanksgiving, he's going to be doing a pregame. And by the way, that's a 2-hour extended pregame.
Yes. Yeah. So,
8
in fact, I think you had to go 3 hours on that one, Lloyd. Just start at 7.
That's an AM. You and Christian Cox, 8 a.m.
Oh,
Sorry, my camera's not on until I talk.
Your
Turn your camera
hypocrisy
on.
knows no bounds.
It only comes on when my mic goes on.
Turn your camera on.
It needs to be on nonstop.
By the way, somebody could see the reflection off Scotty's glasses if they
Yes.
were watching close enough. They'll see. But I love that kickoff for Utah fans.
I do,
And
too.
by the way, I love that game, too, because
That could be a lot on the line for that one, too.
Kansas is a wild card, bud.
Yep.
Jalen Daniels is back.
For his, 15th year?
Well, this is actually because of his red shirt and because of that it's actually his 14th.
Yeah.
But
oh, my bad.
But
yeah.
So you're 1 year off. And by the way, he's making as much as 6 out of the 32 NFL quarterbacks.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, and look, things could have changed as of yesterday. Jalen Daniels is still planning on being back for Kansas, correct?
Correct.
Kansas is going to be a wild card.
Big time.
Yeah, because they got the coaching staff. And you know me, man. I got the memory of an elephant when it comes to bad football memories. And going to Lawrence 2 years ago, writing some pretty good football and watching the outcome of that one and being like, geez, you remember that started with the Parker Kingston shot to the grill from
was it
like
Kobe Bryant?
Bryant?
Yeah, Kobe Bryant.
Only spelt different.
I think he just got drafted.
Only spelt different.
Yeah.
And Kobe knocked the jaw off of Kingston, and you had the fumble, and then you had the pick six. It was an intended throw to, I think it was Isaac Rex, and ended up in a pick six return. That Kansas game was complete insanity all those couple years ago, and this is going to be a good one.
Are you at Kansas this year? Do you know if you're going there?
No, not at Kansas this year.
I'd be curious to see what that new stadium rebuild's looking like.
Yeah, me too. So
I think it's done this year.
Yeah, it is done this year.
Yeah.
It is done this year. So Utah fans will be making a trip to Lawrence, the new stadium. By the way, make the trip. That I know that it's a drive, and it's especially if you drive there and then drive back and then you're at the wrong place. And
is that where the wrong place happened?
Yeah, I think so. If I remember right, that was the wrong place. It's a bit of a drive. It's a little out of the,
You fly into Kansas City, or where do you fly into?
But the campus,
they all blend together. I know. I shouldn't be putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
But Kansas, the campus was incredible.
Well,
it's a beautiful college atmosphere.
It's historic. There's a lot of going on. It may not have that same cachet as they do for basketball, but football, man, they're rocking. And I love the coach, and I love that game for Utah. I love the time, especially. BYU will open up against Portland State. They've got Stanford, and then another one October 3rd, West Virginia.
All of them are late kicks. Portland State, 6 p.m., and that'll be an ESPN Plus. My guess is typically with the ESPN Plus games, Scotty, doesn't BYU TV have broadcasting rights to those?
Usually, yeah.
So you'll probably be able to see it there, and then you'll be able to get Greg and I's call on BYU Portland State. But the BYU Stanford game, I'm really excited about this one. Stanford coming to LaVell Edwards Stadium. It's an 8:15 kick. I just don't even worry about these late kicks anymore. Now, it bums me out because nobody back east is going to be seeing even 1 second of BYU kicking off against Stanford because Stanford's not going to be good. And people will not be staying up till 10:15, 10:30 on the East Coast to try to catch this game.
Even if they were good, a lot of people wouldn't watch that.
But see, that's why I like the Utah-Kansas 10 a.m. kick on Black Friday. Like, it's a strategically you want to get your, especially right now, you want to get your product in front of everybody. And BYU feels like they're going to have a good product. And it just bums me out because these products, now that's going to be an ESPN game, but that's an 8:15 kick, so you lose a lot of eyeballs off the East Coast and in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize it until you're on the East Coast and you're like, well, what time does that game start? 10:30. And you're just like, the game starts at 10. I'm not going to stay up till 10:30.
I am with you on that. I used to be the guy like, if you're a voter, blah, blah, you owe it to watch these games. And then you go back there and you're watching a game on the East Coast. You're like, no way would I be doing that.
Now, maybe if it was a big-time rivalry game, but back east, they don't even look at BYU-Utah as a big-time rivalry game.
No.
And Midwest doesn't look at it as a big-time rivalry game. They don't care. That's why the BYU-Utah game and that amazing rivalry is just kind of like tossed about, like, well, they'll throw it on a random week. I don't put a weekend.
Is there an opening there? Okay, just put it there.
Yeah, just put it on a weekend. It's like, hey, whoa, this is the most beautiful product our state has to offer.
I know, which is why Brett Yormark is doing a huge disservice to his conference by not showcasing it. Because you're right, nationally, it may not move the meter. But what is your job as a commissioner? Take your best product and showcase it to the world.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to be doing. This needs to be BYU, Utah, 10 a.m. on a Friday to show the rest of the world, hey, guess what? These two teams, they don't like each other very much. These fan bases really don't like each other very much. This has heated history. It was one-sided to one team. Now it's flipped to the other team. And if you got both those teams that are having good years going down to that final game of the year, yes, it needs to be showcased.
I mean, Farmageddon's cute and all, but come on.
Yeah.
It does. This needs to be showcased, man.
I mean, with you, Kansas is a great game. It's a great venue. It's a great opponent. But that's not the game you need to be showcasing on a Friday at 10 a.m.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that you need Pat Summerall and John Madden and putting together old highlights and them coming in with, in the late 1960s, this kicked off. And John Madden be like, oh, yeah, you take a look at this guy jumping out of the stands and beating up a cheerleader. It gets really crazy.
And boom.
Yeah, you gotta boost this thing, man.
Yeah, yep.
Like it's one of your beautiful products, Yormark. Stop falling flat with this.
I know. It just and the other
has nobody gotten in his ear and said,
well,
hey, this is like a really big
here's who needs to be getting in his ear, and I don't know if they are or not, because we talked to the athletic director at the University of Utah last year at Big 12 Media Day, Mark Harlan, and I asked him, like, Mark, I would have bet good money that would have been the last game of the year. And he kind of implied that none of the coaches really wanted it at the last game of the season. They wanted that bye week. Now, they had that last year where both teams had the bye. This week, they're all playing, they're not on a bye week leading into it.
No.
But I could also see Kyle and Kalani both not really wanting to play that game on a short week. So you play Saturday, and then you play on that Friday. I don't know if they may have wanted to play on a short week.
I don't like the schedule either way, because Utah's going to be coming out of that Arizona State game.
Yep.
Now, they play Arizona State at home, but they're coming out of that Arizona State game. That's going to be one of the most difficult games of the entire season. So they play that Arizona State game, and then they're at Lavelle Edwards Stadium that following Saturday. BYU is at Arizona. So you're going to go and play in hostile territory. It's still going to be a tough game. I don't know what to completely expect from Arizona. There's a lot of people projecting that Arizona's going to, fall back to its mean.
Yeah.
But which it did last year, but it's going to continue to tumble. But you're at Arizona, and then you follow that up 7 days later with that game against Utah. I did like the bye weeks, even though on air I didn't really like the bye week. It kind of
sucked from our perspective, yeah.
We just had to drag it out, but we still had 2 weeks of bye week talk.
It was fun.
And this year, not so much. Utah could come out of that Arizona State game with a little bit of stinging butt. And BYU could come away from Tucson dragging a little bit, or feeling like they're world beaters, winning, beating Arizona by 32 points. And being like, nobody's going to touch us. I just think that it creates a lot of different scenarios for both teams.
No doubt. 12:29, Hans and Scotty coming up next. We'll continue on the schedule talk. Some of the key games that have been released time-wise for Utah, BYU, and for a team that did not have a particularly good season last year in Utah State. Utah State drew a nice schedule in terms of television access and times. We'll talk about that as well. It's all straight ahead. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Remember, tickets are available for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games opening ceremonies, June 6th at Southern Utah University, featuring live music, biggest fireworks show in Summer Games history. Tickets available at tbirdtickets.com. Fired up to be down there coming up next week. Going to be a blast.
So we've just been going through these schedules. We went through my favorite kickoff time and game as we currently have it is that Utah-Kansas game. Utah at Kansas, 10 a.m. kick on Black Friday on ABC. I think that's big time.
Yes.
I do like the Stanford game. You know, my cousin's kid plays for Stanford. He's going to be their premier tight end.
Did he flirt with the portal at all?
He didn't. But I had a lot of people calling me and saying, would he flirt with the portal maybe? And I sent a lot of calls and texts. I'm like, hey, there's a lot of money out there. And he's like, no. And we're talking about Stanford is a complete mess.
Oh, it's a dumpster fire
They
right now.
fired Troy Taylor, right?
Yep.
And right now, I think Andrew Luck is coaching the team.
I don't think he's the GM, so he's running, the NIL and the collectives
But didn't he take over day-to-day, like, OTA operations? I think he finished out spring.
Wow.
I think he was in charge of, like, putting together schedules for spring and stuff.
Well, good luck with that. But I'm not sure who they're going to go with interim or if it will be Luck. But either way, yeah, it's not a great situation.
Oh, no, I've heard that Andrew was only going to be dealing with off-season stuff and that they're going to make a hire. But
yeah.
Andrew Luck was kind of like, hey, you got to get rid of Troy, and I'll help you through this time.
Frank, that's I was just seeing that. Yeah, the old NFL coach, Frank Wright.
I don't know. Do they lift interim?
That's not a bad way to go. Smart guy.
So you get to see Stanford. That's an 8:15 kick, and that's an ESPN game. So nobody see it back east. And then BYU West Virginia, Friday, October 3rd. That is a Friday game, an 8:30 kick on ESPN. And I'm excited for that one, too. West Virginia. I think this is the first time West Virginia will ever have been in the Val Edwards Stadium. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that sounds about right. The look at BYU at where they're at right now, it's just there's this, and I don't mean to turn this into this segment. We're talking about schedules, but there was so much optimism about BYU football until a week ago. And now it's like, what do you have? And I know there's bigger issues than football at play here, but it's hard to talk about a schedule and project because in my mind I'm thinking, all right, BYU's going to be good. They're going to be really good. This is going to be a great year for Kalani. They got all these pieces in place.
Good.
Really good. Everything's laying out nicely. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait. So it's really hard to project until we get some clarity on what's happening at quarterback.
Hey, which makes me think, how would you handle this as far as making the decision and making the announcement? I mean, this is what you graduated in.
Yeah, from a public relations standpoint, this is a tough one. Well, right now,
do you want to do BYU Media Day? Because we're going to have the BYU golf tournament. Do you want to do Big 12? Like, how do you handle
When
this?
is that golf tournament, by the way?
The
Coming
23rd.
up. 23rd. Yeah. All right. So essentially, as of right now, you've got 3-4 weeks to try to figure out something until you have your next media availability. The timing-wise is working for you in your favor to a point where you've got spring ball over with. So there's the first time Kalani is going to meet with the media would be that golf tournament on the 23rd and your other players and other coaches. So you have a little bit of time. I'm a little surprised that BYU has not released anything as of yet that I know of. I think
It's just a statement.
Yeah, just the statement, but I would like to see something along the lines of we take these things very seriously. We will take a deep dive into this investigation. We will explore all opportunity or all avenues. And as soon as more information is available, we will let you know. That gives you some time to really get to the bottom of it because this is not going to be something that is just going to involve BYU and Title IX. It's going to be something that's going to involve BYU, Title IX, and the church. It's going to be involving the honor code. I mean, there's so many layers to this, but you need to have that wrapped up by June 23rd. Because
a unified statement.
A unified statement where everybody's on board, even if it's a statement of we are evaluating and we are still trying to come to a determination as to what we're going to do, but you cannot throw Kalani to the wolves on June 23rd. You cannot throw these players to the wolves. You cannot throw other coaches to the Wolves, because we're going to be out there. Everybody's going to have mics, and they're going to want to know what's going on because the public wants to know. Every BYU fan wants to know, will Jake Retzlaff be playing quarterback at BYU next year? Will there be any kind of suspension? If there is, how many games? What are we looking at?
Yeah,
or
these
will
guys are
or will he play
facing
game
a
one?
storm.
And it's not fair to them
No.
to be the face of that.
It's not. It's not. And that's why they're in such a difficult situation, because as I had that conversation with the longtime attorney, it was made pretty apparent that this probably won't even be settled until sometime, maybe even into or through 2026.
Yeah.
Because of the civil situation. So I think as a coaching staff, if I'm Kalani and if I'm Brian Santiago and if I'm BYU, I think we come together and we say, all right, how are we going to handle this? Do we know if he is going to play or not? What do we know? We don't know. We have to let this play out. Okay, then we slow play our cards. Our message is unified and simple. Until we have the facts, until we know, we can't make a decision. And I would take that right up till the day camp kicks off. And then if camp kicks off and he's not on the field and somebody's like, we noticed Jake Retzlaff's not on the field, I say his situation is still in flux. And I push this off with a unified, quick statement to cut it off at the pass of it's still in flux. We don't know all the facts. The judgment hasn't been handed down. And I have a statement that just ends your questioning.
Yep.
That allows more time for me to figure out what I'm doing and if he is going to play.
Yeah.
And I leave it as a mystery. But if I know he's not going to play, I know it. Without a shadow of a doubt, I know it. We can't, you just can't. He can't. He's told us he can't. He's not going to. Or, he decides, well, I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to remove myself from this situation and I'm going to fix myself, whatever the situation might be. And I know he's not going to play. Then I make that statement.
I make that statement as fast as I possibly can.
I make that statement.
I have nothing, and I know, look, these situations are very, very different. So I'm not comparing the two in terms of one player versus the next player, but I think Utah and no, look, hindsight being 2020, I'm not throwing them under the bus, but I do think they handled the Cam Rising situation very poorly. And I think had they had a chance to do it over again, they would have done things very differently. But nobody's really gone through that before at that magnitude. So I'm not blaming the University of Utah. I'm saying if they could go back in time, they'd probably do things a little differently because I think it affected the team. I think it affected the locker room. I think it affected the coaching staff. It affected a lot of people in how they try to do that.
It definitely affected the quarterback room.
Exactly. So if I'm BYU, I say, okay, what's best for my team right now? We know we know Jake's got to work on Jake, and he's got his situation he's got to work on. If you find out Jake's not available for this upcoming season, I think you make that statement immediately. You do not slow play that. You do not let that fester through camp. You don't make a player like McKay Hillstead have to step up to the mic and like, hey, McKay, what's going on? Do you know if he's going to? He's like, I don't know, man. I just go out there and I got my reps and that's all I know. You make that statement. You don't slow play that for competitive reasons. Know. If you know.
But you got to know.
But you got to know one way or another.
Yeah. And I actually think that has to come from Jake.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I think it has to come from Jake. I think because I'm gonna offer him his privacy and I'm gonna offer him his room to work and I'm gonna offer him everything that he's got. As a football organization, I think that's my responsibility. Because if I'm sitting down and questioning and I say, hey, Jake, did these things accused happen? And he says no. And okay, then we got to give you room to work through this. And you got to distance yourself and give him room, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So as I give you room to work on this, then I'm relying on you to come to me and say, I need time. I need privacy. This will be hanging over me through 2025. I want to know what you think on that. How do you feel about that? that's hard for us. There's going to be a line of questioning every day.
Yeah.
And could it come down in the middle of the season? How much legal obligation are you going to be strapped with potentially through the season?
And every place you go on the road, that first snap you take or you walk out of a tunnel and you're in front of a student section or an opposing, not only are you going to hear it, your entire team is going to hear it.
Yes.
And are you ready for that? Are you ready to be an unintended distraction for your team?
So I give it to him. I think that's just me putting myself in a coach's shoes. And by the way, I think that the unified statement has kind of been issued. According to what Brian Santiago said to our very own Mitch Harper. Here's Brian Santiago in response to Mitch Harper's question about Jake Retzlaff.
Mitch, it's a fair question. It's a private matter. The university made a statement, and Jake and his attorney have both released statements. And our responsibility is to care for our student athletes. Certainly, it's a tough situation. Be ignorant not to say it's a tough situation, but it's a private matter that's going to be handled privately. We just found out about it when others found out about it, and so we want to respect the privacy of Jake. We want to respect the privacy of the university. We want to respect the privacy of those involved as the matter gets worked out, and have full confidence that the right thing will happen moving forward.
I've heard those comments from Brian Santiago before, and this takes us in a whole different level, and I know we got to go to break. But he is saying there that they didn't know. That's interesting.
That is a conversation, I think, for a longer segment.
Oh, yeah.
But the way I'll put a bow on this, and I'm going to throw it back at you because, you've been a PD in this market and responsible for a lot of different on-air talent and production and all those types of things. And I don't know if you probably haven't ever had to deal with a false accusation or an accusation or a civil suit that might be factual. I don't remember you ever having to deal with that.
No.
Okay, but let's just say you got a he said, she said thing that's going on with an on-air talent just because it's pretty visible like this. And the on-air talent's telling you, Scotty, I didn't do this. I did not do this. Or the on-air talent says, I did do this. Look, that's going to definitely change the way that you handle this. But just for the sake of conversation, let's just say that I say, I didn't do this. What you would have to say or do for me is, hey, Hans, we're going to give you privacy. We're going to give you time. If you didn't do this, we're going to give you an opportunity to clear it up. Like, we can't just fire you based off accusation. This is accusation. You'd have to extend me privacy and time.
Yes.
So that's what Santiago and Kalani and BYU are doing. It's the right thing to do. You got to extend time
and
privacy.
And by the way, time and privacy does not equal an endorsement of innocence
or guilt.
Yeah. It's saying and it's not a suspension. It's we're allowing him time away from the team to work on what he needs to work on from a legal standpoint.
Right, and that's another point that needs to be made. So then you would probably say to me, Hans, I'm sure that you can see that this is a major distraction for our on-air production, right?
Correct.
And I would say, I understand that. Okay, well, we need to make a decision on how to proceed here. Okay, well, what's the decision? And I would say, well, I don't want to be a distraction, but I need to make money. It's how I can't lose that income for my family. And you could say, hey, look, this thing has blown up into a big story, because it'd be a big story. If you did it or I did it, it'd probably be in the Des News, would be my guess.
Probably.
As public figures.
Yeah.
And you would have to extend to me some type of opportunity to get things cleared up, continue to maybe make an income. Because I think if you handed down an ultimate judgment on me, I think that could be looked at as very poor as well.
Yes.
Okay, so then what I'm trying to get to is ultimately you would put the decision in my hands.
Yeah.
And you'd say, Hans.
But I would strongly,
you understand.
I would strongly encourage you to step away.
To step away.
Yeah.
And to take care of business.
Yes.
And you could say, well, what are the projections on the civil suit to be complete? And I could say, well, it's looking like the end of 2026. Okay, well, let's give you that time to get this taken care of.
Yeah.
I don't.
But
then again, you would have to go to your higher ups and say, do we keep him on payroll?
And that's ultimately somebody, way higher up the food chain that's going to have to make that call. Because now you got to get your HR lawyers involved. And at BYU, your HR is essentially your Title IX. And those individuals are going to say, okay, what is going to, and sadly, this is the case, but the university is going to ask themselves, how do we protect ourselves from this situation? How do we avoid being sued because we didn't do the right thing with him? And so everybody goes into CYA mode. They can, issue all the statements about support for the victim or support for Jake or whatever, but ultimately BYU is going to make decisions based on how does this keep us from getting in the mud in this situation.
Well, I thought Santiago did a good job of handling it. That's the first question that I've heard issued, and it was from our own Mitch Harper, who's going to be on at, 2:05?
Yep. Well,
so we'll ask him. Now
he's down at Big 12 meetings.
There was a nugget thrown in there that at some point you and I need to spend more time on.
Yep.
But to say, we got to give him privacy. I would need privacy.
Yeah.
You would need privacy.
You're going through the most difficult situation in your life, whether it's whether you did it or you didn't do it, you're going through it.
Yeah, but again, put yourself in the shoes. You're sitting across from me. We've been great friends for a lot of years. And you're looking at me like, Hans, did you do it? And I'm saying, no, I didn't. Well, give me the story. Here's the story. Well, the story makes sense. Because here's the thing, nobody knows the details. We just have one side of the story.
Yeah.
And if I'm giving you a side of the story that maybe doesn't clear my name, but it makes the situation understandable, then you'd have to be like, okay, I'm going to take your story to the higher ups.
Yeah. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, 12:53. What you may have missed coming up next.
Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah, we've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, nominate the U Sports volunteer for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nominations at kslsports.com/contest. And then every Thursday afternoon, like today, JJ and Alex will announce a winner. All brought to you by Hercules, First Federal Credit Union, and Beehive Mills.
So we were just talking about what you got your degree in. And, you probably could have been working on the back end of a professional organization in different public releases to make sure that every I is dotted, every T is crossed, so there's no confusion. How does something like this happen with Alex Ovechkin?
I know, right? I was just reading about this before the show.
The greatest scorer in NHL history, and somebody sends an email to every season ticket holder saying that next season's his last. And then the Capitals had to get on social media, and they were like, by the way, that was a mistake. And everybody's like, yeah, but we got the email. You said that
this is from you.
It is from you, and you're saying that it's Ovechkin's last season. The social media is trying to overcome now what emails were sent out to every season ticket holder, which, by the way, is your base fan base.
Yeah, that's the diehards of the diehards.
Yeah, they're not just going to hold on to that email and be like, well, that's for me to know. Everybody's blowing that up. Like, oh my gosh, we just got this with our season ticket package. This is Ovi's last season. Holy cow, we all got to renew. Like, are you trying to get everybody to renew? Or are you trying to generate interest? Are you?
Yeah, it's a bad deal. It's a real bad deal. Or did
somebody just flat out screw up?
Okay, and I don't know how it happened. I don't know if they know that it's Ovechkin's last year and they were just putting the preparations on it and nobody caught it before it got sent out. But this is what you say from a PR standpoint. You don't say it was a rogue employee. You don't do any of that nonsense. All you say, you don't say you were hacked. You say, look, we as an organization prepare for many different scenarios. And we don't know when Alex Ovechkin will let us know that it is his last year, or if that last year was his last year. We don't know. But we as an organization prepare for all different types of scenarios. In our preparation for the scenario that was released, we mistakenly sent out that email that was one of many different variations, and we accidentally sent out the wrong one.
Send.
And we apologize to the Ovechkin family. We apologize to you, the fan base. We apologize to everybody that was affected by that. Just own it. Say, that was a mistake.
I just think that people are going to read so deep into it because it is the final year of his contract. Next year is the final year of his contract. And he'll be 40.
Yeah. It probably, you know what? He probably did say something, and they're putting together the work to make this big announcement, and somebody screwed it all up.
And sent it.
Yep.
That's my guess. But then why have your social media get on top of that? Be like, oh, go correct it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
because
like
we overreact over everything. Just take a deep breath. Crisis management. Just take a deep breath.
Could you imagine Ovechkin's surprise when he got a call and he's like, hey, I just got this email. His dad's calling. Hey, I just got this email from the team saying that this is your last year. I didn't tell him that. Well, the email says that in our season ticket holdings. What? Imagine that phone call from Ovechkin.
That's a bad deal.
Calling the Capitals and being like, hey, can you put the buffoon on the line?
Yes.
That decided he was going to email my final year? Well, we were talking about that. We might have discussed it.
But I haven't made a decision yet. In fact, I want a trade.
I'm done. Forget a final year.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. Obviously, you want to move on. It just seems like this would cause a nasty fight. But I could also see Ovechkin being the kind that's like his dad calling, hey, did you see this? And always just being like, what? Don't worry about it, Dad. I can see him being that too.
Yeah, I know.
Don't worry about it, Dad. It doesn't matter.
Imagine if the Lakers accidentally did this with LeBron James.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there would be. Hell, they might force a sell of team.
Yeah.
The Bus family might actually have to sell the Lakers because of an early release on LeBron James.
Jay Stevens is going to join us coming up next. We'll talk about the newest members of the Utah Mammoth. Straight ahead, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Number one.
Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Let's get it, folks. Time to kick off your 1 o'clock hour, and who better to talk a little NHL than the man himself, Jay Stevens, hockey insider, Utah Mammoth insider for KSL Sports. But let's just be honest here. He's the Utah Mammoth insider for the Hans and Scotty show.
Yeah. How you doing, Jay? Let's get your mic on.
There we go. I got it.
How are you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
I'm doing great. I felt like we should have finished that song, though. I'm a huge Beastie Boys.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't mind if it just plays as a bed underneath the whole segment.
I was just reading about them last night. Yeah, let's talk hockey, man. It's crazy right now. Everything's crazy.
So before we get into the playoffs and the Stanley Cup in Florida just laying waste to everybody, let's talk about the newest members. Number 6 and number 11th picks?
I think it was 6 and 12, right?
6 and 12 in the 2023 draft are now signed. And boy, they put together quite a resume overseas.
Yeah, they went over. They won the championship in the KHL, which is, that is basically the equivalent, and some people say it's better than the American Hockey League, as in the AHL or AAA, our AAA league. So the KHL is good. There's a difference. It's a little less physical. It's a lot cheaper. Like there's more cheap shots. A little less physical because they play on the bigger ice. They play on Olympic-size ice. So it's so they went back.
Is Olympic-size ice bigger than NHL ice?
Yes.
Oh.
Way more room behind the net. It's wider.
You know that?
I did not know
I
that.
did not know
Yeah.
that.
So, but the Olympics are changing to NHL ice from here on out. That was the last vote. So we're going to have that's going to really suit our players because we're going to have NHL players in the Olympics. But in the past, it's always been bigger. That's when the Maverick Center, when the E Center first opened, it was Olympic size ice. So every time I'd go from like playing normal ice to go to sit,
It's got to be
go to take shots.
Significant difference.
Yeah, especially for goaltending, because the boards are wider. You kind of I'm not looking back. I don't know I can't see where my net is. It's all muscle memory or like the force. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's
sensory.
it's something.
Spidey senses.
Yeah,
there,
spidey sense. And you have to know where your net is. And when they expand it 10 feet, and then they add another 5 feet behind you, it really changes the game. So, and it changes your angles, and you think something's going wide, and it goes right in the net.
Okay, let's start with this because both of them are Russian-born, Russian players. Is there a connotation? Is there a kind of maybe a perceived conception of what a Russian player is or is about typically? Or are they just no?
No, they have. There's a pretty widespread level of talent coming out of Russia. I mean, clear back to the Olympics when they were super physical and super fast. Then you had Pavel Datsyuk, the magician. Like he was just the wizard. He was amazing. And the Russian Rocket with Pavel Bure, who's famously married to Candace Cameron Bure. But those were kind of the Russians that were coming out. You had a short, fast guy. You had a tall guy. And then you had, like, Datsyuk kind of blew everybody's mind. He's a Russian that, 8th round draft pick. And
Candace Cameron from Full House?
Yeah. She's married to a hockey player.
Yeah, Pavel Bure.
A Russian hockey player.
Yeah, she's Candace Cameron Bure now.
I had no idea.
I wanted to throw that at you just for fun.
That's why I love having you on, Jay, because you'll throw in pop culture, you'll mix it all up.
What's your name? Carrie Underwood's also married to a former NHLer.
No, I did not know that.
Yep.
I thought she was married to a rodeoer.
No, that's Jewel.
Oh, that's Jewel. So she's married to an NHLer.
Yeah. So, and he even Mike Fisher, he switched. He was playing, and he's like, all right. She basically told him, "You're coming to Nashville." So he had to kind of get out of his contract and go to play in Nashville. So he finished his contract in Nashville, and then she'd sing the anthem for the Nashville Predators. There you go. But
he's done. He's off the ice now.
Yeah, he played a few years, and then he's been retired for a while.
Look, if you're not really good, and Carrie Underwood wants you to move,
you move.
He was really good, though.
He
was really good.
Yeah.
If the NHL gets rid of you, you'll be fine.
Yeah,
financially, you'll figure it out financially with her.
Typically, an NHL career is 4 to 6 years, and you can sing forever. So just go right.
And her earning potential is way higher. Than that.
Oh yeah.
So Russian players don't typically, because I was reading through the resumes and I was reading through Bill Armstrong's comments and everything kind of lends towards Daniil being very physical and very aggressive.
Yeah.
And
he compared him to Tage Thompson. Did you see that part?
Saw that.
Yes.
And that's got to make everybody pretty excited because everybody that just saw Cooley and Keller playing with Tage Thompson in the World Championships has to be like, okay, if we get somebody like that, because everybody wanted Tage Thompson at that point. But that's going to cost you too much. Like Buffalo's not going to give him up. He's their best player.
Because he's a tough sucker.
He's amazing.
And then Dimitri, it feels like Dimitri has kind of the same attachment, just a real toughness.
Yeah.
But more of a defensive player.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's a D-man. They what do they call him? The Russian Redwoods or whatever. They're both 6'5", 6'6", 210. They're both exactly what we've been kind of talking like we need. We need size. We need some kind of intimidation because right now we're not hard to play against, right? We're fast, but we're not hard to play against.
Right. I don't think anybody's fearing.
No. And what did I text you last night?
Yeah.
I said, talk about it all you want. I'm going to get crap for this. Talk about it all you want with new hockey, fast hockey, and all this stuff. When it's playoffs, it's bumps and bruises. It's intimidation. It's
the old formula.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't mind having a couple of mammoth Russian dudes ready to lay the wood out there when it comes time for the regular season. Now, these guys are still just 20 years old.
20 years old. And first-round draft picks, like you said, 2 years ago. And this is what I've been trying to explain to people about what we did with Iginla is because we drafted him and we're like, okay, now go cook.
Yeah.
And then we'll sign you. They ended up signing him because they wanted him to have the money to train. But, it's common to take your first – if he's not a, first, second, or third overall pick, then it's common to send them to the minors or to juniors, or if you have the option to send them to a league that's basically one step below the NHL and let somebody else pay them, and then you wait 2 years and then sign them to their 3-year entry deal. Like that's just free development, and it's smart money, and that's huge for us. And they did go develop, and they're awesome. And we saw Boot last year. He played here. He was at Dev Camp. He was at that game in the Delta Center. He scored 4 goals,
That's
I believe.
right. Yep.
Like he definitely stood out, especially because he's a mountain.
Yeah.
That's a big boy.
Yeah.
6'5", throw him on 3-inch skates,
Yep.
6'8"-ish.
And, that's at 20 years old. There might be still some growth there.
Yeah,
Maybe.
there really could be. And he's 210 now. You get him in here with these, all the nutritionists and the strength and conditioning coaches.
So when we see that they've been signed, because as Scotty mentioned, they were drafted, now we see that they're signed. Does that guarantee minutes on ice for Mammoth next season?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No. So I imagine we'll see it. I was kind of surprised today that because we re-signed DeSimone today on a one-way deal, which really surprised me. For a guy that's got 58 NHL games and 357 AHL games, I was looking, and I may be wrong, but the contract I saw was $800,000 one way. So even if we send him to the AHL, he's going to make $800,000. So it surprised me that they re-signed him because I thought there was, between Bortuzzo and DeSimone, I thought there were some spots available on the roster, but now there really isn't. So somebody's going to have to really shine at camp to make the roster. But they've been high on Shimashev for a long time, and I think he makes it. I would expect to see Boot start in the minors. I could be wrong. If he comes in and scores 4 goals in Dev Camp like he did before and has a really great camp, and he gets, we see him do really well in the preseason, they could both be locks.
Did you hear how he said it?
Yeah.
Daniel Boot,
Yeah.
spelled B-U-T.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I know the
Not
jokes,
even like the
online
butt,
jokes,
but like the butt.
Yeah.
But it's Boot.
Daniel Boot.
But Daniel Boot.
Yeah.
So when you look at those two,
Yeah.
if there was a one player that you think would be a part of the team next year, and you had to
Simashev.
pick one,
Simashev.
Simashev.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just defensive juggernaut, because Boot is more looked at as a two-way guy.
Yeah.
But Shimashev is just a defensive juggernaut.
He is so good in front of the net. And I've watched 10 games worth of tape on him and watched him as much as I could. And he's good. Is he NHL ready yet? I don't know. But playing in the KHL and coming out as a champion tells me that they're right there and ready. And when you win, everybody wants you.
So a 3-year entry level contract, that's not guaranteed, or is it?
3-year entry level is same for everybody.
Yeah.
Every first round pick gets the same money, the same contract. Like the NHL.
Is it guaranteed once they sign?
Yeah.
So 3-year guaranteed contract.
But the contracts are split. So if they get sent, so it's $950 in the NHL, it's $95 in the AHL.
Woo.
Yeah, it's a steep cut.
That's quite the cut.
But it typically comes with a $950 signing bonus, though. So
Okay.
those guys have the money to survive, train. The main goal of the money isn't to make them rich. The main goal of the money is to say, this is now your full-time focus. You're not doing anything else. You have money in the bank. You train every day. You eat right every day. You work out every day. And you, like Bill Armstrong says, the price of the NHL,
The rent's due.
the rent is high.
I
and
love
it's
when he
due
says that.
every day. I love it. I love it. But that's when it comes. Like they give you the money and you spend that money on getting better. And that's why they give you the big signing bonus.
Okay, so that's the big news of the day is the 2 signings of the 2 draft picks. But we're hoping for other news because there's some free agents out there that are going to be floating around. And I've texted you probably 3 or 4 times about
Yep.
Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorites, and I want a dude that's ticked off the world.
Yeah.
And how dare they take off jerseys, throw his jersey on the ice, post videos of them burning it.
Oh, yeah.
And you're not even in an elimination.
Yeah.
At that point, I think it was 3-2 or I can't remember where they were against Florida, but it was not an elimination.
No.
That's the problem with playing in those bubbles. I don't know what to compare it to here. I keep saying the New York Yankees, but if you play for the Montreal Canadiens or you play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, there is no more of a fishbowl to play in than those two markets for NHL players. Everybody knows you everywhere you go. It's like being in the NBA, right? Like everybody sees you and they know who you are and they know what you've done. And they have high expectations and they don't care about the business side of it. So that what they see is a guy like Marner who should get $12,000 to $14,000, right? And you've got other guys on that team making $12,000, and he thinks I should get the same as those guys. And I'm a generational player. He clearly is. He's 80 points to 100 points a season. He would completely change our team. And what I was telling you last night, yes, Bill Armstrong always says, like with the draft and with free agency, he goes for the best player available, and that is absolutely Marner. Without a question, it's Marner. Is that what we need for our team right now? I think we need sandpaper. I think we need some bullies. Mm-hmm. I think we need Sam Bennett. I know that I get chirped on my media because I keep saying Sam Bennett, and people are like, oh, well, he's elbowed two. Well, I guess he elbowed another goalie last night. But, yeah, he's about to win his second Stanley and represent in 3 straight, right? 3 straight cups. He's been there all 3, right? Yeah. And he's like, when you look at how you're going to make an NHL Stanley Cup run, it starts with Barkov, and then it immediately goes to Bennett, and then you got to add Tkachuk. You got to have the sandpaper. You got to have these guys that are going to come in and hit. Because when rubber meets the road, it's old school hockey. It is. It's old school hockey. Just like you texted me. Yeah.
So if you had your choice between Marner or Bennett, you're taking Bennett.
I take Bennett, but I'm going to tell you we can get them both.
Whoa!
For what?
We can get them. They're both unrestricted. We have the money. It just depends on how crazy we want to be because we have to sign Cooley again this year. We have to up him. He's got to be $8 million at least, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but the other thing we have going, all right, so you got a guy that's asking $12 million in Toronto. You come to Utah where the taxes are less, the living expenses are a lot less, and you say, look, we'll give you 8. We'll give you 10. He's going to want 8 years. That seems to be what his camp is asking for. In Toronto, he wants 8. He wants 14 times 8. So I think if you get him at 10 and get Bennett at 8, that's $18 million. We still have $5 million left. But we still got.
So this is just way different than NBA talk.
A little bit, yeah.
Just so everybody, the reason Scotty and I are kind of sitting here with our mouth open because you don't talk like this about NBA stuff. You know, like if there's one guy in the NBA that's available, it's like, oh no, you don't say, man, maybe we could get Giannis with the money that we've got. But what's crazy is we might be able to get. Who is another, middling?
Well, Giannis and Kawhi.
Reeves. Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves. And we could probably, you just don't do that with the NBA.
Right.
But if you're telling me.
Look, I'm telling you that there's potential.
There's a possibility that you could do it.
And they're both unrestricted?
Yeah, they're both unrestricted. So Marner's camp would have to say, yeah, we'll come to Utah for less. And Bennett would say, yeah, we're coming for less because you still got to get Cooley signed. We can't overextend. So, but it just so happens that the cap goes up $9 million this year, which is like perfect to bring in. Like that's just basically getting Bennett for free.
So there's a.
I'm not saying it's going to happen.
I had
just saying it can.
Yeah.
I had an NBA GM tell me once there's no such thing as a bad contract in terms of money. It's years.
Yeah.
That get you into trouble.
Yep.
When you look at the kind of years those two would want, what are you looking at?
They're both going to want 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah. And that's why I think, I think what's going to happen, honestly, what I think happens with Marner, I'll just say it out loud right now.
That would put Bennett at 36.
Yeah. Yeah.
36 years old.
Which is fine.
Well, I mean, Obi's going at 40. So.
The problem is the way he plays. Like, I don't know, can you get that out of somebody that long? I mean, Ovechkin's been a bowling ball forever, and he just keeps ticking. But what I think happens is the writing is on the wall right now for Jack Eichel to leave Vegas and go back to New York and play for the Rangers. He's a New York boy. I think he goes to the Rangers. And I think they give him the money he wants, and I think that opens up Vegas and Anaheim to really go after Marner. So when it comes down to it, I think it comes into, everybody's going to make their best offer. And I think if I'm Mitch Marner and I'm mad because I didn't win a cup in Toronto, I want to prove that I can win a cup now when I'm young and I know I can put up another 100 points. And if I can take Jack Eichel's spot on the Vegas Golden Knights right now with the Vegas supporting staff, the problem is we don't know if Stone's going to be healthy enough to play next year. I highly doubt that you get a season out of that guy, and he is the heartbeat of that team. But if I'm reading the tea leaves right, I think Marner ends up with Vegas and Jack Eichel ends up in a Rangers jersey, and I think we get Bennett.
So
don't hate that.
So that would put Marner at 36 as well. So because both Bennett and Marner are both 28 right now. But Bennett's got 3 consecutive years of Stanley Cup experience.
Right.
But Marner put up 102 points. Bennett put up 51 points. Marner put up 102 points.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. And you know me. I love the physicality.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I'll take the Bennett because, you got to have the dude.
I would like to give Bennett $8 million or $9 million for 6 years. I don't want to go 8 years with him. But that seems to be what everybody's camp is trying to get on these new UFAs that are coming off their last RFA. So, it's basically age-based. That's why they're both going to be, if they both sign 8, they'll both be 36. They both entered the NHL at 18. They've both been generational players. They're both phenomenal. I think we have guys that can score 80 to 100 points. I think Cooley, Gunther, and Keller are those guys. I think they can put up those points. They need somebody clearing space and setting them up. And I think with a guy like Keller out there, you're going to find that puck's going to hit your stick in the most optimal spots, and you'll see Bennett's points jump. He'll be a line, because he could be a line one guy here.
In terms of years, how long can you extend Cooley? 8 on him too, or
I would go 8 right away. Yeah.
Because obviously you want to go as long as you can. He's
coming off his entry level contract.
Is there a collective bargaining agreement in terms of how many years you can sign a guy?
No, but they're discussing it now because we had some contracts that sunk teams before. It's Suter and Parise signed 10-year, $110 million deals. I think maybe they're 11-year, $110 million deals. So
11 years.
Yeah.
So you really can't attach years.
And they did not get the money out of those guys, and it ended up really kind of messing with the Minnesota Wild. And those guys basically came in and took over the team and were like, "Hey, we bought a rink, practices at our rink today," and so they started.
That's got your Kawhi Paul George thing going on.
It got a little too crazy for Minnesota. So I think the GMs and the owners are like, "Hey, let's cap it at 8." But man,
but that's more of a gentleman's agreement.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Hey, do you have time to hang out?
Sure. Yeah.
You okay if we stick around and talk a little bit more? I know we got Good, Bad, the Ugly, but we can push that.
We're going to bury Good, Bad, and Ugly.
Yeah.
If you'll stay one more second.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
I love it. Jay Stevens hanging out with us here in studio, your hockey, NHL, Utah Mammoth insider, and the hockey concierge for the Hans and Scotty Show. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jay Stevens, our hockey insider, hanging out with us for another segment. Kind enough to come in studio with us. All right, so anybody gonna mess with Florida? I mean, they're just dump trucking teams right now.
Yeah, and that's what I've been saying for the last 3 or 4 years. I keep picking Florida, and I keep saying the same thing over and over and over again, is Florida is built for the playoffs. They start from game 1 like it's playoffs. They play super physical. They play right to the line. They push the envelope sometimes. They have those guys that, adding Marchand, just the fact that they had the tie-in with the Rat before, but everybody always calls Marchand the biggest rat in the NHL. The fact that he's on that team now, they just have everything they need.
Is that why they were shooting the rubber rats at him?
So, yeah. And the Rats...
Did you see that?
Yeah.
And the Rats came... there's the tie-in from way back in the day where I thought it was when Ray Ferraro, when he was playing there, they had a rat just show up in the locker room while they were getting dressed. Because, their old locker room used to flood and stuff, and they were in their first Stanley Cup run where they lost to the Avalanche. And they ended up just shooting. He just walked up and took a slap shot with that rat that was in the locker room, killed it right there in the locker room. And so now they're like, it's part of the legacy because after that happened, they had a really good playoff run. So it's that was kind of their thing anyway. It's in their Stanley Cup ring from last year. There's a rat in it. And then the fact that they got the rat, it almost, I don't know. It's like everything comes together. But Marchand is that player. If he's on your team, he can do so many things right for you. And if you're playing against him, you hate playing against him every time he's on the ice. He's going to punch you in the kidney.
People hate him.
Oh, man. I hate him.
Because I know one game, I can't remember which game it was, he spent like 10 minutes in the box.
Yeah. Happens all the time.
He was in the box pretty much. So, I always look at a guy like Marchand and I think, well, wait a second, he's great and that aggression. But then I'm like, do I need a guy that's going to put me behind the ball?
Well, he has definitely cost his team at times. And you've seen that happen. Edmonton's almost blown it a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
With Kane, and let's see, who else? I want to say Corey Perry. They're having guys that are doing the same stupid things, ending up in the box. So it's, yeah.
Are there some guys that get like a Draymond Green, like a Lifetime Achievement Award, where they're going to end up in the box just more almost on reputation?
Oh, yeah. For sure, and that's Marchand for sure. Actually, Bennett gets that.
I was going to say, Sam Bennett qualify as one of those guys.
And he's been suspended a few times. So for everybody that's chirping me about him elbowing the goaltender, let's go back to the fact that the NHL reviewed that and said it wasn't a cheap play. It was a hockey play, and those things happen. And I can tell you, being in that spot when guys are coming from left to right, you're just vulnerable when you're in the butterfly like that.
One thing that's crazy to me about hockey, and I watched Carolina skate off the sweep, and they got the win to push to Game 5, and I'm watching the first period last night, and Carolina's got a quick 2-0 lead through the first, and I'm like, okay, awesome. Maybe we'll get a Game 6 out of this series. And within 30 seconds, Florida, boom, boom, 30 seconds, back to back. What happens in that? Does a goalie blink? Or
No.
Because this is on Carolina ice. This is in their environment. That goalie disallowed anything coming through in the first period, and then all of a sudden, boom,
it just seems like they always come in waves.
Yeah, and he's a phenomenal goaltender. Freddie Anderson's he's been in the NHL for a long time. He's an experienced guy. That's why they went out and got him, and he was playing great hockey. What happened is somebody took a stupid penalty at a bad time when they just killed off a power play, and then they went shorthanded, gave up a goal, and then gave up an amazing scoring opportunity that, it looked that second goal looked like it was a pass going to the wide guy, and there just happened to be another guy wide open coming down the middle. So Anderson's going from right to left trying to get to where the puck's going to be and doesn't read that second guy's not going to get picked up, that middle guy. And, as a goaltender, you have to play where that puck's going to be. It's a split second. It's not even a second, right? It's a microsecond. And you have to just go based on how many times you've seen that same thing in practice. You have to get your left foot as far over there as you possibly can. And if somebody else doesn't pick up their guy, you've already read that there's a guy wide open on your left side, right? The backdoor play's wide open. And you've read it. You see it coming. That's what you're playing. You don't expect the middle to be wide open, too.
How often when you see a goal, this is kind of an unfair question, but when you see a goal and we immediately go to the goalie, like he gave that up, but there's a good chunk of time that probably in film room somebody else is getting blamed for that goal, not the goalie.
100%. And that's not – so as a goalie, we know. Like I say, I know if that's that backdoor play and I can get to it, I know that even if I don't get to it, that backdoor shouldn't be open, right? On a power play, it's a little bit different. Spots are going to be open. You don't play as wide out. You have to stay deeper in the net because you know that they're going to be going for that backdoor play. That's the whole thing. Power plays are set up to create a 2-on-1 so they can get a backdoor or a one-time pass from behind the net. And so goalies know, and goalie coaches know, and coaches know who is responsible for that goal. Fans don't know. For fans, and especially as a goalie parent, when my son was playing hockey, and I'm watching goals, and everybody's like, "Oh, our goalie sucks." I'm like, "Well, first of all, that's my son. Second of all, there's a lot of things that have to go wrong to get to that point, right?" So, yeah, do NHL goalies give up soft, confusing goals sometimes? Absolutely. Does Bobrovsky do it sometimes? Does Carey Price, the best goalies in the league? Vasilevsky gave up a soft one that, kind of turned the series around a little bit for Tampa Bay. Vasilevsky's one of the best goalies in the league by far. And it happens, but everybody knows whose fault it is. Everybody knows, and the film room, it does suck, because you definitely pointed out.
What's happened in this series that's going to close out tonight? Edmonton's probably going to close out. I would imagine Dallas. I don't know if they can skate it off. But what happened to Rantanen? Because he was on the craziest run in postseason history, and then conference finals come around, and he shuts it down, or what?
Edmonton's built for the championship. Like there is no space. There is no space on the ice. We call it gapping in the NHL or in hockey. And if you see any time a Dallas player gets that puck, there's somebody immediately on him, and just stick to stick, so you don't have room to make a pass, body to body, so you don't have room to skate. What Edmonton doing is the same thing that Florida did to Carolina. Carolina's a speed team, they're a finesse team. They just took time and space from them every time they got the puck. Their goal was to stop them from creating speed. Rantanen needs speed. Robertson needs speed. Those guys that are scoring goals for Dallas, they have to have time and space. And Edmonton is built. They just keep matching that. That's where that second line comes in. We talk about how important a second line center is. That second line center is constantly on Rantanen and not giving him any time and space to be creative or to see. Like, you've just got somebody's shoulder right in your eye the whole time.
So it's more what Edmonton did than what Rantanen's
Yeah, 100%.
So is Edmonton one of the best teams? If you're going to put up a team that can go toe-to-toe with Florida, is it Edmonton?
Yeah, 100%.
We asked that, by the way, because we're about to watch an NBA Finals that is probably sweep. I got to imagine if OKC doesn't sweep Indiana, then it's probably a 4-1. And we don't need 2 4-1 championships. Like, I need a Game 7 in the Stanley. And you're telling me Edmonton and Florida could potentially be a Game 7 type series?
It was last year. Like, this is just a replay from last year.
Yeah.
So what's crazy is at the beginning of the season, all the experts were saying it was going to be Dallas and Carolina. And I just kept saying, I think it's going to be Florida and somebody else. Like, I don't know who else, but somebody else. But I know Florida's going to be there. I thought Edmonton would have more self-destruction from losing Game 7 last year. I thought there would be more damage and more fallout and more finger pointing. And you know how teams, they kind of self-destruct after making it to a championship, and then plus other players jump ship and go chase money. So I was kind of surprised that Edmonton made it back.
Is Connor McDavid the best of this series? Is he the best player off both rosters?
He's the best player in the NHL.
Okay.
He is.
So that plays for something, right?
Yeah.
In a Stanley Cup final, having the best guy on the ice.
Yeah, and it's not like he doesn't have support too. He's got great guys around him too, and it's I don't know.
By the way, Hyman's done for the.
Yeah.
He's out.
And what a fluke hit. It wasn't even a dirty hit, right? Like, but you still have Draisaitl. Like, as long as McDavid has Draisaitl on his side, then they're dangerous. They're always going to be dangerous. The Hyman thing just blew my mind because, man, that wasn't much of a hit. It just must have hit him perfectly.
I thought it was it was like a glancing blow.
And sometimes those are the worst ones, right? You're just not ready for it. I don't know what he had surgery on. They're kind of. It looked like an elbow or a wrist, maybe?
A wrist, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a wrist. I think they said a wrist or hand surgery.
I'm trying to remember, though, last year, how did Florida handle McDavid? What kind of series did he have last year?
I don't know right off the top of my head. I know that it was Keith Tkachuk or Matty Tkachuk was lined up with.
Yeah.
And he was in his face the whole time. And so that's pretty good for Tkachuk to even be able to keep up with him. But it wasn't just keeping up with them. It was doing the little cheap shots and the little face rubs and keeping him frustrated and off his game as much as it was anything else.
Let's see, Scotty, I'm just pulling this up. 23-24 postseason. It looks like McDavid, he had a good run.
He puts up points.
I mean, his top performer in 3 of the 7.
What's the saying? You're not gonna stop him. You can just hope to contain him.
You hope to contain him, no doubt. And Florida is built to contain a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, it should be a fun series.
Who do you want to see win this? I want to see Florida just because, you get this whole U.S., Canada.
That's the part for me. Yeah. I wanted to see somebody different win it this year. I kind of do every year, except for now. From now on, I just want Utah to win it. But I can't root for Edmonton. Like, I like the fact that Canada hasn't won a cup for
93.
Yeah, and I know that every team's basically all Canadians. I know that the majority of the Mammoth are Canadians.
Yeah.
I think it's 8, and then with 7 Americans. But it's and we're getting some more Russians. We'll be 3 Russians this year. But I don't know. I just kind of think it's funny, and I enjoy it. And I work with a couple Canadians, so I think it's fun to rub it in their face.
Scotty, this is 6 consecutive trips to the Stanley Cup final for Florida teams.
Just incredible.
6.
Yeah.
3 straight by Tampa, 3 straight by Florida.
I thought Tampa had a really good shot this year. That should not have been the first series of the playoffs. We should go back to the 1-8. It would have eliminated, because the playoffs were just freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we get to the conference finals, and it's a 4-1. Like, it's just...
It did feel early for the Battle of Ontario and the Battle of Florida.
Exactly.
It felt early for both.
Exactly. It should not have happened. We should be watching that right now.
Yeah.
You are the man. Thanks for hanging out with us. Always good catching up with you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
being
Jay.
here.
That is the man himself, Jay Stevens, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. A little whole world news coming up next.
Go! It's time to span the globe for the hard-hitting news you care about. Well, not really. But hey, at least we found it interesting. This is Whole World News on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
We've got the whole world in our hands.
You got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole
It is time for another edition of Whole World News. Hoping to chat with Mitch Harper sometime next hour, who's down at Big 12 meetings. But it's time to span the globe to find something that we hope is somewhat interesting. We're going to go to North Elba, New York today, Hans. 2 hikers in New York's Adirondack Mountains. I think I said that right. Adirondack Mountains. They called 911 in a panic to say, number one, that they were lost in the mountains and they needed assistance. And number 2, that they had a third member of their party and he had died.
Okay.
Had fallen off a cliff.
Jeez.
And was dead. And they were in a panic. They said, we need your help. We are lost. Our third member of our party has passed away. So the state forest ranger responded to that call. They found the hikers, and they said, okay, let's get you back to your campsite, get your gear, and then we'll go search for the man who had passed away. Mm-hmm. They take him back to the campsite, and they found the third member of the crew that was just fine. They then realized that these hikers didn't seem all quite there upstairs. In fact, the official term was a altered mental state. But they found out that the 2 were extremely high on hallucinogenic mushrooms that they had taken recreationally, to the point where the third member went back to camp and they just thought that he had fallen off a cliff and was dead, and they themselves were lost. And when they returned to camp, found, oh no, Bob over here is just fine and we're tripping like crazy. It was they hallucinated the whole thing.
So what do you do? Do you charge them?
I would charge them, yes, absolutely. The Rangers escorted the 2.
Do you make them pay for the rescue operation?
1,000%.
That's thousands.
Yep.
Tens of thousands.
The third member was not high on drugs. In fact, he didn't know that they were taking drugs. He was more than happy to submit to any kind of test. He goes, I'm fine. I'm just been here waiting for these 2 jokers to come back down.
That are tripping
like crazy. So the ranger escorted the 2 hikers to an ambulance, which took them to a hospital. the dude was fine.
They're going to get hit.
Yeah, because you got an ambulance, you got the Rangers that had to get involved to find them.
Does it say the length of process? Was it just 1 day?
Just 1 day. Yeah, they found them very quickly.
Yeah, then I'll bet it's in the tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Probably 10 to 20,000.
And we have a good friend of ours who sells for the station, Jen Tanner. Or not Jen Tanner. I'm sorry. Jen Tanner. Sorry. That's what she does on the weekend. She's a ranger, essentially, on search and rescue.
Oh.
And I've asked her, like, do the people get hit with the bill? And she said some counties they do, some they don't. And hers, it's taxpayers that foot the bill for it. But I got to imagine something like this, then they'd say, no. You're going to pay for this.
You're going to get charged with drug possession unless you're in Colorado.
Yeah.
And, right, because, Colorado, you pretty much ingest anything you want.
Everybody's tripping there.
Everybody's on something. So you're going to get popped with drug possession and falsifying and I would say tying up search and rescue, because what if there's an actual search and rescue? There's got to be charges, pretty serious charges.
I would think so. I would think so.
Well, enjoy that.
Yeah. Hope those mushrooms were worth it. All right. Mitch Harper expected to join us sometime in the 2 o'clock hour. He's hoping to snag a one-on-one with Brett Yormark. So we'll work around that and chat a little BYU, Big 12, Utah, Big 12 coming up next. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah, we've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
There's no comments because Scotty's locked into softball, Lloyd. Come on, man.
Fascinating.
Know your audience.
Top of the fourth.
Know your audience, okay.
Top of the fourth. Tennessee's leading Oklahoma 3-1.
There's some real pitching on the mound today.
Tennessee pitchers bringing the heat.
And Oklahoma, too. Yuck. Man, those pitches come at you fast, don't they?
Imagine that thing coming at you about 70 miles an hour and coming up instead of curving down.
We've been watching a lot of softball in these studios lately, bud. Lot of softball.
Look, when we walk in, it's on. It's not like I'm specifically turning it on.
Are you sure? You're not texting Lloyd? Make sure softball's on when we get into studio.
I'm not coming in studio unless we have softball on.
I know you love to call a softball game.
I had an absolute blast.
Does she not have boondoggles on those glasses? How is she keeping those on her head?
I don't know, but yeah, how is she?
I don't know. That must be a tight-fitting glass. Athletes usually wear a boondoggle?
Oh, yeah.
Don't they?
Ooh, just a bit outside.
Or at least athletic glasses, the ones that kind of strap onto the head.
Yeah, like the old Thurl Bailey goggles.
Yeah. Who's the big one? Was it Elgin Baylor? Who was the...
Kareem.
Who's the most well-known goggle wearer in the NBA?
Kareem, by far.
Was it Kareem?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, joining us from Big 12 meetings, it is Cougar insider Mitch Harper, kind enough to join us. Mitch, how are you?
What's up, Mitch?
Hey, doing great, guys. It's, pretty eventful meetings here at the Big 12 and a lot to unpack, so excited to be on and talk about it with you.
All right, so first off, let's start with, is there any thoughts, concerns about what the Big 10 and the SEC are up to right now?
Definitely, because, the Big 12, it's pretty clear that they want to go with a 5+11 college football playoff model, but at the same time, that would have still only put one team in to the college football playoff last year. And I was just, moments ago talking with Kalani Sitake about the playoff format, and, he endorses whatever Yormark wants to move forward with. And he's big on wanting to prove it on the field. But, as we know, with the college football playoff committee, they can always find certain ways to justify things. And it's like, they almost were forced to put SMU in because SMU had a 13th data point and, Alabama did not, and they had 3 losses, and SMU only had 2. So, and BYU, oddly enough, was the team that beat that SMU team. So it's kind of just, it's going to be interesting to see how the direction of, college football and college basketball goes. But, a lot of talk about postseason expansions here. And, I think the Big Ten and SEC, there's reason to be, it's interesting their commentary, but I think that 5+11 makes sense for college football, and I think an expanded NCAA tournament, which I don't think that's needed, but you can get you more bids potentially in the Big 12, and what does that mean? That means more money, And that's the name of the game and really all of this when it comes at the end of the day.
Hey, Mitch, why do you think that your mark or anybody else related to the Big 12 doesn't max out the BYU-Utah rivalry game? Why do they stick it in a random October weekend?
It's a great question, and it's one that I really want to dig in more a little bit here. We're going to be talking with the director of football here at the Big 12, Scott Draper here soon, and it's definitely a question that I want to ask in greater detail, because it does feel like a game where, okay, if you want to have it in an unconventional spot, we'll own a certain weekend. Don't just toss it around. And what's the rhyme and reason behind it? If it's not going to be the final week of the year, okay, that's fine. But, have it own a certain weekend of the calendar, and just going from November 9th last year to October 18th this year, it just seems kind of random, and there's no rhyme and reason to what is going on. Now, they have said in the past that they do want to, spread out the Big 12 rivalries. There's 4 protected rivalries in the league. BYU and Utah is one of them, and they want to spread it out. And there's been a lot of, TV executives and personnel here at these Big 12 meetings, and they're a key piece to how these meetings are structured. There was just moments ago, the ESPN college sports programming director who had he was inside a meeting and came out, and so they're heavily involved with these meetings. And is it a method of what the networks are saying? That we don't know for sure, but you have to think that they're being advised in some capacity on that. But that is something I want to find out more in regards to BYU and Utah for sure.
In terms of talking to Kalani Sitake, you asked the great question to Brian Santiago at his press conference about Jake Retzlaff. Is there any further kind of clarification? I'm sure there's really not, but is there any conversations being had with Kalani in terms of any updates there?
I did ask Kalani about Jake Retzlaff, and he said similar commentary as Brian Santiago, that basically referring to BYU's statement and that it's an ongoing civil lawsuit, and they didn't really have any comment. What Kalani did say, though, from the football side of things, was that he does feel very good about his quarterback room, and he didn't, leave out anyone. He was, including all of it, but he did point out that he likes, Bear Bachmeier, bringing him in. We talked specifically about him. I asked him about Bear Bachmeier because he was a spring portal addition, and they really like his talent and ability to come in and compete, and have a chance to be, on that depth chart this fall. So, but as far as specifically with Jake Retzlaff's civil lawsuit and what his status was or is with the team, Kalani didn't have any direct comment, because that's what I asked him. I asked him what specifically is his status right now with the team, and he just said he had to point to BYU's statement and that it's an ongoing investigation.
So did he make a similar comment as Santiago in terms of when they both found out?
He did not. He didn't to discuss when he found out. I'll admit I didn't ask him when he found out the timeline of when he found out. He just kind of referred to the statement of Jake Retzlaff. Well,
you didn't ask Santiago either, and Santiago threw it in there. What were your thoughts when he said that?
I thought it just kind of falls in line with BYU's statement that they acknowledged in the statement that the civil lawsuit was filed that day, and that checks out, where it was, I believe, May 21st, Wednesday, May 21st, 8 days ago, and that's when we all found out as far as the lawsuit itself. So that makes sense from the civil lawsuit, and then that's kind of how I kind of read into that comment.
Do you think, and again, I'm asking you to speculate here a little bit, but there's got to be I got to imagine there's got to be like a drop dead date in terms of, is he available, is he not available? And is that before fall camp? Is it in the middle of fall camp? I mean, is there a moment where as BYU as a football team, you're like, we've got to prepare for the season without you?
Yeah, I feel like it's no later than after the 2 weeks into fall camp. Like, I feel like that's at the latest, because that's kind of, forming really your depth chart in those 2 weeks of fall camp. And so you've got to really have an idea where you're at that point, because then you're starting to transition into not necessarily preparing for, the season opener. I mean, can't take anyone for granted, I guess, but, you're starting to get into the season mode a little bit after those first 2 weeks of fall camp, because those feel like the bulk of really shaping, fall camp or season depth chart. So that to me kind of feels like the spot where you got to, you've established a decision there. That would be kind of my, target range of where I feel like there needs to be some sort of decision. But again, there's no, precedent for this, with it being, a civil lawsuit. They've got to let the investigation play out. And, but I got to think BYU's got to make some sort of, public comment on, what his status is going to be. I mean, I would assume if we're going to have fall camp availability, we'll see those windows of who's out there and who's not. And, BYU will probably, say you can't speak on who's not participating and whatnot, but still we'll all see, who's out there in practice if we get that chance. And so that'll probably tell us too a lot, because those first 2 weeks I think are critical for any season, even when you have a returning starter. Like that's just a key piece to establishing who are going to be your guys for the season.
Outside of that, as you've been there at Big 12 meetings, what are one or two other major storylines that you're kind of taking away that we might be addressing in Big 12 media days?
Transfer portals are big. Transfer portal conversation among coaches is a hot topic. Where things land with that. Basketball's only got the one portal window, but it did occur during the NCAA tournament, and then for football, of course, you've got the December period, which is leading up to bowl season and the college football playoff, and then you got the spring portal, which is probably the most controversial piece. And I bring up the portal because whenever this House versus NCAA settlement, if it does go through, and that's kind of this waiting mode right now for everyone, but if it does go through, it has the potential to usher in the College Sports Commission or new enforcement leadership and potentially a new football calendar, and establish new kind of guidelines and parameters. And the portal, I would imagine, would be one that coaches would love to see change. And I'm sure they'll be pretty vocal about that, of what they would like to see, because I think every program has its, I would say, horror stories from the portal in this past spring or back in December. BYU, they lost Keelan Marion, they lost Harrison Taggart. Now, Taggart was probably, as Jay Hill noted, coming out of spring, it was just 1 and 1A between him and Sialia Sarah. So I think BYU feels really good there. But Keelan Marion was a loss, and he was really talented in spring football, and he's gone off to Miami. But on the flip side, BYU gets Justin Kirkland from Oklahoma State, who, Mike Gundy's here at these meetings too. And, BYU gets in their conference, transfer there. So there's good and bad with the portal, but I think that spring window is just kind of tricky, because you maybe bank on some guys and you count on some players, and then they're gone. And then you kind of have to, backfill on the back end with some new players and kind of recalibrate expectations, or maybe what you thought you had. So portal window's big. And I would also add another, piece is just, again, maximizing bids to the college football playoff too. Beyond just what the format is, how are you going to get there? Does it entail scheduling agreements with another conference? Can you, bulk up that non-conference schedule? I think, finding a way to get the most bids possible to be in that position is going to be a big storyline too.
Do you anticipate, when the House thing finally gets settled and we're ready to get into camp, that it will be a strict 105 roster, or will they allow these teams to kind of grandfather some players into it and just kind of slowly get to that number?
So some of the coaches here, they didn't make cuts, and they're kind of in a position where, they could be in a spot of advantage compared to other teams like BYU who did make cuts. It's still kind of uncertainty as far as, what the number exactly they believe it could be. But it is interesting that there was different approaches to spring. I guess kind of coming into these meetings, I just assumed that pretty much every program cut a bunch of guys, and They're in a similar spot to BYU where they're pretty close or a little bit, over, give or take, at that 105 mark. But I think all these coaches have taken different approaches to how, to juggle that, because that did throw in a wrench of how these rosters are going to be built with, grandfathering that. And look, BYU still got guys too that are in the portal that have not landed anywhere. And maybe they'd be those type of players that are players 106 to 115 hypothetically. But so they could have those options maybe. But yeah, it's very interesting how the roster construction has been taking shape for all these teams this year, with House versus NCAA still up in the air. And what's crazy is that House versus NCAA became, a talking point. The lawsuit or the settlement, it really became a storyline last year at this time at these meetings, and it just seemed like, okay, it's going to happen, and it's going to go into effect, and the new era is here, and it continues just to be delayed. And this calendar year, the new calendar year for college athletics begins July 1st. That's a month away, and there's still not that clarity as to what direction this is going to go.
Hey, Mitch, how do they make the decision on what games and times and networks that they want to release in scheduling? We saw 3 come out for BYU today. We saw 4 come out for Utah. And I guess I'm just curious, how much does the Big 12 try to manage that, or is that just university operated? And what does that stuff mean to you?
So the ESPN Plus games, typically the FCS games, the kick times are selected by the school. So BYU plays Portland State. They open the season at 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus. BYU gets to pick that. So whenever an FCS matchup happens and it's going to ESPN Plus, the school gets the chance to pick the kick time. And I know that in last year for BYU, when it came to that specific kick time, they wanted to highlight kind of the night game environment, and with it being hot, kind of late summer still, and hotter weather, wanted to have a cool down in the evening. So that makes sense. So as far as the other games, maybe conference matches that go on linear television, it's a goal of also just spreading every window where you got 10 a.m., 1:30, 5 o'clock, and 8:30. The Big 12's got that luxury to have all 4 time zones covered. So there's a little bit of a puzzle piece and jigsaw to kind of figure that out. And, BYU, as you can see with these games, they're going to be a late night team. BYU and Stanford gets an 8:15 designation. So you're going to see some late night football with BYU, and ESPN has really enjoyed having BYU in that late night spot. BYU's delivered some big ratings in games they've been a part of. The Baylor game 3 years ago, BYU and Utah was a big ratings boom last year in that rivalry game. So, if you can get, clips 2 million viewers in a game in the late night, that's pretty good viewership for that window. And BYU's kind of had a little bit of a tendency to get that. But early season, I think it's a lot of projecting too. And it's a lot of forecasting who you think are going to be good, who are going to have the storylines involved. That's a big piece to early season kick times. And then, in the season, it becomes either 12 days before or 6 days before they try to figure out just, based on what the on-field product has been that season, and figuring out the best games at that point and putting them on the best linear networks and TV spots. But TV selection is huge, and it's something that's critical because you're seeing with the ESPNs and the ABCs and Fox with Big Noon, like they're really showcasing some of these leagues. And so where you're on television is a big deal, and trying to get the most eyeballs possible.
When it's all said and done, I know we're going back to the playoff. How do you think it shakes out? In the Mitch Harper crystal ball, how do you think that seeding works out?
I think it'll be 5 and 11 with 11 at-large bids. And honestly, from the standpoint of, that layout, it gives the perception that everyone's got a chance. Everyone can go into a season and have an opportunity. And we can get, deep in the weeds of the playoff committee and their history of, knocking down teams and whatnot. But you have that chance. And the Big 12, if they can elevate its football profile, they should be in a position to have that chance. The 4-4 bids for SEC and Big 10 and 2 for Big 12 ACC that's been tossed out there, the issue with that is just it looks like, you're far inferior. And look, there's been data that's out there that the SEC and Big Ten have got far more bids already, so you can already point to that. But that just puts it out there even more. So I think 5-11 would make a lot of sense for the Big 12 and for the college football playoff. I think it'd be a good system. I'd like to see the 16-team playoff, though, be 1 versus 16, 8 versus 9, not multiple buys for one team. Then that makes it even more confusing if you just go 16-team bracket, set it up. I think people can get on board with that. It's easy to understand. It makes sense. But if you have all these different bids for this league, different bids for them, this seed gets, a 2-round bye, this one gets a 1, that's just too confusing for the casual fan. I think a 16-team bracket could be really fun for college football, and it could be pretty fun. I think that hopefully that's where it ends up going.
Any other nuggets from your Kalani Sitake conversation that stood out to you, Mitch?
We talked about spring portal additions that BYU added with Tiger Bachmeier too, Justin Kirkland. He's excited about those guys. Very bullish about their potential. He also talked. I'm trying to think here because we just got off the interview just moments ago. I also talked to him about the challenges of House versus NCAA and what it creates for BYU. He did get into the roster of how, they might consider, grandfathering if it's allowed. And if that's what it becomes, they might look into that if guys do want to come back. So that was another nugget that he did say. There were other tidbits too, but, kind of big picture of thinking of the Big 12. But we also talked about just how the meetings are structured too, being around the league. Kalani and BYU in general have been really excited to be in the Big 12. And, they've made it clear that they feel like this has been a springboard to really highlighting BYU's strengths. And Kalani noted that in my conversation with him and Brian Santiago as well. Brian Santiago, even a couple months ago when I was at the Alamo Bowl talking with him, he said that, this has put BYU in a position of strength and a platform. And he kind of talked about, the Big 12 and the competitiveness in the league. So, yeah, it was really insightful stuff there from Kalani, though.
Brian Santiago has been labeled the basketball guy, and I could tell in that press conference he really wanted to reiterate that he understands that football is the front porch of every athletic department, and really stress that was a point of emphasis for him, because there's a lot of people out there that think, okay, well, yeah, basketball and all the headlines that basketball is getting right now with its spending and some of the resources that have been made available to it. But I got to imagine that football is a huge priority to making sure that he stabilizes that as well.
No question. It's an exciting time for I think for BYU sports right now. And I just saw Brian just walking by right here he's going off to a meeting right now. But I think that for BYU, the BYU football program, I think that there's more resources than I think people realize. And I think also too that BYU still to its core, like football is going to drive the ship, but they're looking to win big in all of it. And Brian's very competitive, and he wants to win big, and he wants BYU to win at the highest levels. And I think that's the right attitude that BYU needs, because you see in these hallways here in Orlando at these meetings, like you're seeing Mike Gundy's and Dave Aranda's and some very successful coaches, Matt Campbell, some of these ADs, some of these basketball coaches, Scott Drew. I mean, guys that have done it at the highest levels, and you got to compete day in, day out against this type of talent. But at the same time, you're also in a league where there's endless, potential, because there's not a set hierarchy really in any of these sports. So it's just kind of a very interesting time, and BYU's trying to seize the opportunity, it seems.
How big is the flip? He started with Oregon, then BYU, back to Oregon, then back to BYU. I don't know if I'd want to get stuck behind him at a Subway restaurant, but it does appear, and I'll let you pronounce his name if you have it off the top of your head. How big of a get is that for BYU?
Alai Kalani-Ovalu. He's a really big get as far as just from the recruiting rankings go. He point to since 2000, 8th highest rated recruit BYU signed since 2000. Now, he's got to play, and we'll see how it goes. He's a mission first guy. He's been called to serve a mission in Colorado. So he'll it's going to take some time for him to enroll at BYU, but really big get. And again, I think it shows the momentum that BYU's experiencing on the recruiting trail. And he's an interior offensive lineman, can play guard or center. I mean, he could play tackle, but I think he's best served in the interior of the offensive line. Good technician, just got a great frame too, and tons of offers. I mean, it's a big get. And BYU, though, this month coming up in June is going to be really interesting because they have a lot of really high-profile official visitors coming up. It's now the quiet period in college football. That kind of kicks off today, but it's going to be anything but quiet, because what quiet period means is just you can now have recruits come onto your campus. You can't go to their high schools. You can't go to their hometowns, but they're going to be coming to campus. And so it's going to be a busy month in June for recruiting. And honestly, it's the biggest month on the recruiting calendar now for college football coaches. Really, you try to nail down your class by 2 weeks before fall camp kicks off. So then you can enjoy a little bit of a vacation and settle down and get ready for the season. June's kind of the bulk of where you build up these classes, and BYU's got, Rider Lions are going to be visiting next month in June. I mean, they've got some, 4-star prospects that are coming through. So it'll be interesting to see if they can continue the momentum that they have built, because it's a class right now for 2026 that's knocking on the door of being a top 25 class nationally. And if they could add a guy like a Rider Lions, you're getting into that conversation of being among one of the best classes in the country, and then that's going to be the challenge in front of Kalani Sitake and his staff.
Never a dull moment. Mitch, appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us.
You bet, guys. Take care.
Mitch Harper, Cougar Insider, KSLSports.com. Again, more of the same when it comes, but there isn't any. You got to ask the question to Kalani, but there's really nothing that he can add that hasn't already been said by BYU or by Brian Santiago.
Sounds like they've already got kind of a unified front.
It does.
And a direction that they all want to go. The problem is, every time you bump into it, it's just going to be a big question. My guess is, much like the DUI for former Doak Walker Award winner was the Big 12 Media Day topic, and your head coach said, wow, that's happened to me 1,000 times. He just got unlucky. You want to make sure that everybody's polished up.
Yep.
Because
can't get off the rails.
Yep. Every seat you sit in, it's going to be, so tell us about your quarterback.
Yep.
And that's not just for Kalani. That's for every player that you roll through there. Last year they had 3 players, or was there 4?
I want to say there were 4.
Might have been 4.
Maybe I'm mistaken on that, but yeah, that's.
I think they had 2 offensive players and 2.
Yeah, I think they brought 4 players last year.
Connor Pay, Chase Roberts.
Didn't they bring the punter?
Jacob Robinson. Oh, did they?
Was that?
Oh,
or was that 2 years ago?
No, I think you're right. Oldroyd.
I think maybe.
Was that his name?
Anyway.
I think they did bring the punter. Rico.
Suave.
Yeah, Rico. Who knows? Who's Oldroyd?
He was the place kicker.
Yeah, he was the place kicker. Had those weird green shoes.
You were not happy with at a certain point.
Was I not?
Or wait a minute, no, he was good last year, right?
No, that was a different kicker last year.
Was that a different kicker last year?
Yeah, that was a different kicker last year. Oldroyd was the year before.
The hands got sideways with.
Yes.
Will Farron is.
That's right.
Yeah, Will Farron is he's.
Don't you call out St. Farron. Don't do that.
Yeah, St. Farron's dialed in.
Gosh.
But Oldroyd at some point I think did tick me off.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Oh, yeah. He had a missed kick that was bad.
Yeah, several.
Yeah.
Well, you remember he came on and had that hot streak, and remember they made some big deal about
Jake the Make.
Yeah, Jake the Make, and he had those green shoes that was like a big deal.
Hit the game winner in Kalani's.
I think they even auctioned off his green shoes.
No,
I think so.
Don't say it unless it's true.
Oh yeah.
Come on, Ernie, you're gonna need to apologize for that one. All right, 2:30, Hans and Scotty. We'll spin the wheel next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Loaded, and it's time to talk some sports. This is Sports Roulette with Hans and Scotty on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Bottom of the 5th, Tennessee.
Those are slim pickings.
Up on Oklahoma 3-1.
Slim pickings.
Pitch a little low and away. Ball 1.
Oh, Scotty can't even help himself. He's got to call the game.
Natural.
When he sees softball, it's laser locked.
Scotty time.
I am not letting either one of you disrespect the beautiful sport of softball.
I'm not, believe me. I mean, it's incredible entertainment. 3-1, huh?
Yeah.
So Tennessee's a 7th seed.
Oh, they're going to pull the pitcher.
What? They better not. They better.
Wait, who is it? Tennessee and who?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma just had a double play that was ridiculous. It was a catch out on a fly ball.
Yeah.
And she got it from midfield to first plate before, whatever runner. She got almost to second, had to turn around.
Oh, no, they're keeping her in.
Yeah, you aren't going to pull her.
I wouldn't think so.
No.
Because she's been dealing.
Yeah, she's dialing up. Oklahoma can't even get a hit off her. Anyways, we're loaded on sports roulette.
Yep. Softball at the 35s right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. With that, Lloyd, fire up that wheel.
Expensive team equals big-time games.
BYU is playing some big games, Scotty.
Money's paying off.
Money's paying off. So listen to this. BYU fans, you should be excited. And by the way, I don't like to promote this because I'm on the BYU football call. So, let's make football the marquee, right?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
Some of these games. Okay, how about this one? UConn at the TD Garden in Boston.
Yeah.
BYU versus UConn.
In Boston.
TD Garden in Boston.
Home of the green
monster.
There you go.
Monster.
I mean, that's ridiculous. And by the way, that's A.J. DeMonte's home.
Yes.
So,
there's a reason they're playing that game.
You're taking it back home.
Yeah.
And then they've got games against Clemson in Madison Square Garden.
The Garden.
In the Garden.
Lloyd, you're not helping.
They've got themselves in a tournament with Georgetown, Miami, and Dayton.
The Hoyas?
Yeah, the Hoyas.
The Hoyas.
And the Hurricanes. The Hoyas. They've got a season opener against Villanova in Vegas.
I'm telling you, man.
And then
this is you're like the Harlem Globetrotters. Hey, you'll go anywhere and play anybody.
And then Rothstein just tweeted out yesterday that they're going to meet up with Wisconsin.
The Badgers.
November 21st in Salt Lake City at the Delta Center.
At the Delta Center. That's a hell of a schedule.
Center.
Are you kidding me?
Delta Center.
Are you kidding me with all this? Wisconsin, Villanova,
North Carolina. It's crazy. Here's the thing. If any of these games overlap with football, Greg's ditching you.
No, he will not.
Oh, he will.
You're saying me and Shep?
I don't know who's going to do it, but it ain't going to be Greg. If he has a chance to call BYU West Virginia or BYU North Carolina, where do you think he's going to go?
BYU West Virginia?
No. You're getting dumped.
Not a chance.
You are getting dumped.
I would have never thought so, but I think so. I think that's happening.
No. Well, let's see.
It's going to be you and McCann.
We got...
Text him right now. Ask him. Say, hey, are you going to be leaving me?
I'm not going to put him on the spot like that. November 21st. Let's see. November 21st. Okay, we're okay there. Well, he's going to have to call November 21st, BYU Wisconsin, and then November 22nd, BYU Cincinnati football.
Is that in Provo?
That's at Cincinnati.
Oh,
it's in Cincy.
Oh, he'll get somebody's booster plane to get him out there.
Yeah, he will.
He'll be fine.
He will. He'll figure out a way. One thing I know about Greg is I don't think he'll miss a football game.
Really? With that
you
lineup?
guys think so?
Well, normally I would say no, but that schedule?
I'm going to have to put out a bat light to Rubes.
Is basketball king?
Right now.
Now you're just trying to get my goat. Both of you trying to get my goat.
I'm just saying.
No, basketball will never be king.
Is basketball now the front porch?
Even BYU UConn in the Garden.
The Garden.
No, It's still
right next to the monster.
But they don't currently have a date attached to BYU and UConn that I've seen. Have you seen a date?
I've not.
I don't know, man. But that's going to be an interesting back-to-back, November 21st and November 22nd. Greg's going to have to.
We're going to find out if he likes you more.
Oh, it comes down to Hans versus Durant.
Durant, that's right. Hans or Durant?
We know who's going to win that battle.
Okay, so there you go. You answered your own question.
He loves Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
All Mark's got on you is ears. That's it.
And height.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like in terms of the relationship. I think Greg loves you equally. He's just been around Mark.
No, that's not true. No, Greg's made that very clear. Very, very clear. Mark is his favorite. And Mark's made that really clear to me as well.
He's like, just know you'll always be number 2.
It's like, does he laugh when he's with you? I'm like, no. That should tell you everything.
Frankly, I can't get him to stop laughing in my broadcast.
In fact, I have to tell him, hey, Greg, stop laughing.
We got to be serious, Greg.
Does he offer to pay your bill? No. Does he you? Yes.
I haven't paid for a IHOP in years. All right. Lloyd, spin it.
For once, college football does the right thing.
Absolutely does the right thing. They're the late, great, and everybody's favorite, Mike Leach, was just right there on the edge of having the necessary win percentage to get him into the College Football Hall of Fame. To be a coach in the College Football Hall of Fame, you had to have won 60% of your games that you coached.
It's fair.
Mike Leach was at 59.5.
Oh, man, so close.
Today, the College Football Hall of Fame lowered their winning percentages for coaches to be allowed in the Hall of Fame to 59.5 in honor of Mike Leach.
That's cool.
And so Mike Leach will now be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame.
I like that, man. That's, he was so creative, so inventive. Washington State, Texas Tech.
And ended up at Mississippi State.
Mississippi State.
Yep. Turned all those programs around.
He did. And what he did is he made college football fun.
Yes.
You know, whether it was Gardner Minshew or...
That interview we had with him is probably one of my favorite interviews we've ever had.
Yeah, we've always had good times with him. And so...
all the guy really does is a coin toss.
So I picked the luckiest guy.
Got the guy that won on the wheel or Price is Right.
Price is Right.
To go out and do his coin toss for him.
So this guy, he comes up and tells, the way he tells stories too.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I think, was he eating a sandwich when he was talking to us?
He was walking. I think he was walking.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I think he was walking to in between facilities or something like that because you could hear him.
So his name is going into the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, because they lowered that percentage for him.
Let's go.
All right. One more, Lloyd. Spin it.
Hey, Mellencamp, shut up.
Ooh. Seriously. What a moron. Okay, now, I'm not a big fan of...
John Cougar Mellencamp?
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of... what's the former Colts punter? That does all the talk show stuff. And he's
Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you see when Pat McAfee took the mic in Indy?
Oh, yeah.
And introduced people and then turned and was like, we got a bunch of New York,
Just send your butts back to...
Yeah, this, that, and other. And and then the Pacers fans booed all the New York elites. I don't know, all the dorks. What are they, like Tracy Morgan and...
Spike Lee and Timothy Chalamet.
And...
Oh, Ben Stiller was there.
Ben Stiller. Yeah, so Pat McAfee was like, yeah, these clowns will send their butts back to New York. And, it was funny, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well, John Mellencamp didn't think so.
Oh, jeez.
John Mellencamp just sent out a big social media push. He said, the Knicks-Pacers games have been very entertaining for anyone who likes basketball or sports. I attended Game 4 in Indy. Who's your hospitality? I was embarrassed when somebody, under whose direction I don't know, called out some of the people who'd made the trip from New York to support their team and in turn support our team. The audience booed these people. I'd say that was not Hoosier hospitality. One could only say it's poor sportsmanship. I was not proud to be a Hoosier, and I've lived here my entire life. On behalf of most of Hoosier Town, I would like to apologize for our poor behavior. I'm sure the Pacers had nothing to do with this smackdown. John Mellencamp. Shut up.
Oh, jeez. What a dork.
Go away, you dope.
This guy was supposed to be like a legendary rocker, and he's like, hey, let's be civil with
Everybody's being mean.
Shut up here.
Get out of here, man. Have you been to New York? Do you know how miserable Knicks fans are?
Yeah, didn't they just pummel a Pacers fan with garbage?
By the way.
Yeah, they did.
Although a Pacer
the last laugh now.
Pacer fan like stabbed a dude.
What?
Yeah.
That guy?
Yeah, like a Pacer guy, like some guy, they were watching a game at a bar, and there was a New York Knicks fan at this Pacer bar in Indianapolis was making a stir, and this guy stabbed him.
Oh, not the fan that, because Halliburton paid for that guy to come.
No,
not that guy.
No.
A different Indy fan stabbed a New York guy?
Yeah. By the way, here's the comments that Pat McAfee said. Given a microphone, this is going into the fourth quarter. And he said, Indianapolis, Indiana, we got some big wigs from the big city in the building. Spike Lee is here. Ben Stiller is here. Timothy Chalamet is here. Let's send these sons of bees back to New York with their ears ringing. Let's turn this bleep up. Come on. That's fun.
That's great, man. I don't even like the guy, but he's made a lot of money.
He's carved out a nice little niche for himself.
He's got people tricked.
Yep.
People forget he's a punter.
Yeah.
Somehow he got into WWE somehow.
Yeah.
I saw him I was watching a SmackDown and I saw him and I'm like, how's this guy with the no sleeves, dopey arm guy? How is he everywhere?
Hey, by the way, speaking of WWE, I didn't have time to get this on the wheel, but this is just coming out of these Big 12 meetings. The Big 12 and WWE are expanding their partnership. WWE will hold several episodes of Friday Night SmackDown in Big 12 markets the night before football games.
What?
They even have, look at the logo.
Come again?
The WWE Big 12 partnership.
Big 12 is partnering with WWE?
Yeah.
What?
Includes a week 0 show in Ireland before Kansas State and Iowa State, and an Orlando show before a Central Florida game.
Hans, you have something looks like you want to say. What you thinking right now?
That this has got to be AI.
No. Chris Manini's reporting it.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What does this even mean?
That the Big 12 and
but we're gonna bury Utah BYU.
Yeah, and WWE. They're yeah.
Does this mean that I get Jey Uso and Dominic Mysterio on the broadcast?
Yeah,
with Greg.
There you go. Hey, now we're talking. All right.
Does this mean John Cena's gonna bust through the door
and do a little face thing?
Oh yeah, he's the face guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wrong
Macho.
guy there. That was Macho Man.
All right. Take a break. Wrap this bad boy up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, let's go to the 7th.
Let's do it.
Oh, no, the bottom of the 6th. So OU is going to be up to plate here.
Yeah, with the 3-1 or with down 3-1. See, that's a hustle, man. You don't see the baseball players play with that kind of hustle.
No, but you also don't see them nearly air out.
Don't worry about that part.
Hey, here's the good news. We are at the top of the batting order on OU side of things. So our top-end lady hitters are going to be stepping up to plate. You know, we're looking now. You start to get the tendencies and the rhythms of that pitch. I know what that timing is. You know, all the pitches have been very flat. So we know what we're looking for.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well,
there's your softball talk. I don't know, man.
At the 50. It's been every 50.
They did an hour pregame for this Tennessee-Oklahoma softball game. They did an hour pregame. That means Lloyd's got to do at least 2 hours.
2 hours.
on Black Friday, Utah versus Kansas. I want you and Christian. I want that when the sun comes up, I want you cracking Mike.
Yep.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you, buddy.
Love it.
Let's see if Christian's going to agree to that.
That's the kind of dedication.
I got to admit, though, I am dorky. Like, football is starting to get me amped up a little bit. You can kind of smell it a little bit. The kick times are starting to show up, and now, school is done, so now all the kids start to head out to their camps.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to spend money on camps this year for football.
I'm paying for my first one this year. Very excited about that.
Well, you're paying for your first 3 because there's one is never good enough. And this isn't like when you and I used to go to camp.
No.
Parents would flip $84 and you'd go onto a college campus for 3 nights and 4 days. And
I got to pay like $80 for some like helmet protector thingy that goes on the top of the helmet.
You talking about that padded thing?
Yeah, it's called a Guardian cap.
Oh.
And it's required. You have to buy it.
What?
Yeah.
For the top of their helmet.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Do you remember the helmets they used to put us in?
Oh, yeah. Like
Didn't even fit, I'm sure.
Lloyd's kids are wearing better helmets for Halloween than we had back in the day.
That is the truth.
Those huffies.
Yeah.
If I got to bring in an old helmet, I'll do it.
Oh, by the way, there was a guy, so we had like this parents' night. I know we got to wrap up. But there was this guy who they said, okay, these are the helmets that we'll issue your kids. But there's a guy over here that will be selling helmets if you want to buy your own helmet. And it reminded me, got thinking, because I remember Rock was coming to you saying, hey, I want to buy my own helmet.
He was.
So I went over just to talk to the guy. You're looking at like $1,200. And I'm like, okay, well, my kid's like 14. I said, so what happens when he needs a new helmet because he gets bigger? Like he's in the first quarter of puberty right now.
Yeah.
And he said, the head usually stays the same size. This will be a one-time purchase. I'm like, bull crap.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
There's no way the head's going to stay the same size. That dude wants me to drop $1,200, and then by the time the end of the sophomore year, my kid doesn't have circulation to his brain because that helmet's so tight.
I'm just telling you right now, too, that these helmet companies, they are scamming the kids because Rock comes home with all the percentages. Well, I can't wear the Riddell because Riddell's there's a 34% increase in CTE in kids between 16 and 18. Do you want me to get CTE?
If you don't give me this helmet, I'm going to die.
That's a 38% increase. You could save me a lot by... If we have to go through concussion protocol, that takes me off the field for 3 weeks, and it
is all a racket.
Oh, they're going to get you. Somebody's going to get you, and it doesn't matter. Look, I've had kids in band, in orchestra, theater, debate, football, you name it. Somebody's going to get you. It doesn't matter what your kids do. Somebody's going to be there with their hands open, ready to take your money.
In baseball, like every kid pretty much now has like 2 bats. You only have 1 bat. You always just have 1 bat.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
You have one that's heavier and one that's lighter. That's how you adjust on the speed of the pitcher. I'm like, how about you adjust your own timing?
I told Rock,
what is wrong with you guys?
I said, Rock, your grandpa played in a 1-bar face mask.
Yeah,
but their life expectancy was like 38. Stop it. Stop it. You don't need to buy a helmet.
Ooh, nice strikeout there. All right, Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. JJ and Alex coming up next.